either. We'll want to point out one thing here. What would the board eventually will be wanting to do is amend our salary schedule. That's what our goal here. With the input from the committee, as we go down through each one of these, we may agree or disagree, but eventually what we're wanting to do, we have a salary schedule in place now that states the amount of money per sport or activity that a coach or a sponsor gets. And what we're really looking to do is to revise that. Our ultimate goal is to acquire equity as much as possible, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to revise our present salary schedule. Now, in some of their recommendations, they've made some suggestions here, and they've talked about positions we currently don't even have. But that doesn't mean that we can't make a decision that we're going to decide on that salary for that type of activity, should we ever have it. So that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to go out and hire, create that right then. But it just means if we ever have this assistant, whatever it might be, this is what the salary would be. Because the process for that, as you know, is one, the board has to create a job. Then the board has to establish a job description for that job. And then it has to be posted. And then we hire somebody. So there may be some of these on here that we presently don't have, and we decide that we don't really think we need that. But we still may put a salary on it, or we may decide not to. It'll be something as we walk. That's why I think what Fred says is accurate. We just need to go down through each one of these because I'm like Rowdy. There's a lot of it's complicated to me, and the only way you can do it is if you just. Because I was talking to Rob before the meeting. The length of the seasons and how much time coaches spend. Those are the kind of things that I would think would factor in here highly, and we'll get into that. But just once again. What we're out to do is a salary schedule. Now, the incentive pay aspect of it, that would probably be factored in. If we want, if that was something, it would be reflected in our salary schedule if we revise it that way to allow those things. The additional coaches has nothing to do with that. Now, that doesn't mean that we wouldn't consider what the committee has said, but it really has nothing to do with the salary schedule. That would get back to what I said a moment ago is if a particular sport or activity let's say the head coach or the person, the lead sponsor of that, saw a need for additional help, then it would be up to them to come to the board and say, hey, I need an assistant, I need another assistant, whatever it might be. And then the board would act on that by saying, yes, you do, we're going to create that job, we're going to develop a job description, and then we're going to post and hire somebody. Or we may say, well, we understand what you're saying, but we really don't think that's necessary. I just wanted to distinguish between those two things. But we're going to, Mr. Mickey is going to talk about a little bit later, setting up a definite date for this, and then we'll go down and try to understand a little bit better. But the ultimate goal of before maybe January or so, before personnel season, of having a new salary schedule in place for these activities. Everybody okay with that? All right. Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Thank you. All right. Now, our next item, Mr. Gosney and Pantel, Mr. Pantel, is that how you pronounce it? Pantel? Okay, that is being postponed. There's been an illness there. Is it Mr. Pantel or his company, someone in there?
It's Mr. White. White.
Okay.
Who's the young man?
Okay, so anyway, there's an illness there, so we're not going to address that today. We're going to take that up at our next meeting, November the 8th, when we meet at Harts. We're going to discuss the Duval thing then. Okay?
Okay, well, let me just ask, since we have Mr. Gosney here, having read the report, we're safe to wait till November 8th to talk about all this?
Yes.
Okay, all right, we'll make sure.
I'm glad we are.
Yes.
Okay.
No, we'll be talking about today, I don't care, will somebody be on the phone? Everybody has a cell phone.
I got a feeling it would have been further up the list.
Right.
Okay, thank you. But we do look forward to hearing that, and of course, we've seen the report, and next week everyone will see it and hear what comments they have to say about it. But I'm sure we all have questions. Okay, that brings us down to our last presentation for the day, and that's Dallas Plumley, and Mr. Plumley wants to talk about soccer concerns. Mr. Plumley.
Hello.
Howdy.
The first thing I wanted to talk about was now that we've got the field over at the high school, the athletic field, and we got the soccer goal or the field goals up for the football, I think we need to go ahead and get the soccer goals as well. soccer, band, and the gym will be one of the first programs that are able to use that field once you
Let
got
me
it.
interject, please. That field is a track football field. That's all, that's what it's designated as. Now, I'm not saying that the board might not decide at some point that we're gonna allow other activities to be there, but I think, at least in my opinion, it would be premature for us to purchase soccer goals or whatever now, when our first goal right now is come springtime to establish track. Because once again, it's a football track facility. That's what it's for primarily. Now, as Mr. Gosney knows, back in the fall or earlier in the fall, we talked about when we were going to put the kid in for the pole vault and the high jump, right? That has to be established. The track has to be marked off. And then track, ideally, and I hope Greg is going to be able to maybe give us some insight into that, that we would be able to have track season there this next spring. That's primary. Now, once that's in place and there's nothing that interferes with it, because it would have preference over everything else, because that's the time of the year for track.
Right.
That's track season. Now, once those things are accomplished and the grass is, they say it's okay now to get on there, then we can look at having other activities. But as far as like the soccer goals, I know we recently bought goals for the middle school, was it, Ms. Vicki?
For Hearts and Hamlin.
Yeah, how long, it just took,
For Hamlin?
Yeah,
it took a couple of weeks.
for the middle school.
Okay.
It took a couple of weeks for us to get there. So once again, I'm not saying that we might not decide that, we want to have that type of activity, but if so, there's no need of us buying that now. We're going through the winter with storage and everything else, or leaving them outside when we don't really know for certain when they're going to be used. And we could get them in a couple of weeks if we do see, when we see the need for it.
Well, one thing to consider as y'all are planning the use of the field, I think you really need to look and see what the boys are using for their practice field, because the practice field that they're using is not to standard, it's not long enough or wide enough. The goals are in really crappy shape. And the other thing you need to look at is the fact that giving them another place to practice that's adequate in quality would make a difference in the ability for them to have a good season like they had this year.
And we would do that, and it would be Mr. Carpenter that would approach the board and suggest and ask for those things, and then we would respond accordingly.
Okay.
He's the football, boys soccer coach.
Yes.
So he's the one that's he's going to decide if he's going to practice out here at the Lions Club field, or if he would like to practice on that other field.
Okay.
It's up to Mr. Carpenter to decide that. If he decides and would like to do that, he would approach us. If, once again, track is in good shape and the field is, then we would certainly consider that. And if it's necessary to buy goals to do that, we'd certainly consider that too.
Okay?
And I would just add that I agree that track's the first priority. It's the first likely use we can get out of that property after putting a lot of money into it over a long period of time. I think my view's a little different. I view that as an athletic complex, and I think we should maximize the use for the kids that we can there. So if it's not going to, I don't know how we could use it as a soccer practice field if we can't use it as a football practice field, because the damage done to the fields are the same. I don't know what football's plans might be to practice out there next year, but if somebody's not going to be using it, another group wants to use it, and the expense to make that a multi-purpose facility is small, I think we absolutely need to do it.
I think I just said the same thing.
Yeah, just in a
words.
different way.
Yeah.
I just don't view it as a dedicated football field first to the exclusion of everybody else. I think we got to get maximum use out of it if we can.
Agreed.
All I was saying is during football season, its primary focus should be football, if
Right.
they want to play there. And during track season, its primary purpose is for having track,
Well, now,
unless they don't want to be there.
in all honesty, football won't be over there for many years,
How do we know that?
because you have no ice, facilities, bleachers, and all those things that go with it.
What if the high school or the middle school coach who is here at Hamlin decide, we want to practice there next fall? Anything to stop them from doing that?
Middle schools?
Well, I mean, the middle school, we've only got one football field.
Yeah.
The high school and middle school share.
Because what that field will do is alleviate some pressure on the Lions Club field.
I understand that, and that's
When we start
where the middle school football team practices off to the side at the Lions Club field. And I don't know, I've never talked to the coach or anything, I'm just saying, should it, no one gonna use that in the fall? Let's say that the high school coach says, no, I don't wanna practice out there, even though it's right outside, I wanna go to the Lions Club field, it's where we play and everything else. That maybe the middle school coach would say, hey, you know, right now, we don't have a very good situation here. There's a standard football field, we can go over there, we can practice on a good field, nobody to bother us, we don't really need spectator seats or anything, we're practicing, and they would choose to do that.
I would think that high school sports would get priority in the use of that facility. If high school soccer wants to use it, high school football doesn't want to use it, and high school soccer does. I mean, where do the boys practice soccer practice now?
Over in the corner at the, behind the tennis court.
Yeah, so they don't have any kind of field to practice on, to
No.
share with or anything else other than just a chunk of land. So, I mean, my view, and this is not something we've talked about, it's nothing the
Right.
board has ever considered, but just my knee-jerk reaction is primarily that should go to high school sports. That they should get first pick. If nobody in the high school sport wants to use it in the fall, the field's suitable for use, middle school wants to practice there, it's better than where they're at, I'm great with that. But, you know, that's just knee-jerk reaction, first issue, first impression for us.
Once again, we'd have to get back to what do the coaches want to do? You know, we can't speak for them, we don't know whether the football
Right.
would want to come over there, the soccer. But, you know, we'll address that like Brandon said, we've never talked about this. But our goal right now is to get track up and running. I want to see them not having to run in the road out there and have those lanes marked off. You know, I want to see track underway, and then after that, we'll go from there.
Okay, well, that leads into my second one.
Okay, go ahead.
As the girls soccer coach in the field that I'm trying to take care of, we've got the field, we got the dirt over there. It needs to be moved on the field. It's a time of year now where it needs to be moved so it can be seeded, so it can be used in the spring for the youth league. Because youth league will start in early April. If we get the grass seed done now, it'll actually be usable. If we don't get it done now doing this and it's done in the spring, then the youth league has no place to play spring soccer.
Okay.
So right now, I don't know of any plan, unless one's come up in the last 3 or 4 days, on how to get the dirt moved and leveled on the field and seeded.
Nor do I. Mr. Gosney, do you? Do you have a plan?
I think when we talked about bringing the 30 tons of topsoil there, I even got Mr. Plumlee, brought him down when the trucks were delivering, where do you want this? I suggested we put it on the field, but because they were having a season, he had it put somewhere else. I think in the discussion we had at the board, I don't think Mr. Plumlee was here, it was our assumption that there was plenty of people, we got tractors and all that would help put the soil on there. I think Mr. Baker may have even said, you know, I'm sure if you get it, we'll get people to get on there. I mean,
Well, apparently, they don't have anybody to get on there. So, I mean, now, do you have any thoughts about when, I don't know when, you know, November is what, next Friday or whatever?
2 days.
Yeah, okay. So, I'm looking down at the end of the table here. What do we do now? Is it, our two options are, one, go ahead and have Mr. Gosney to make plans to put the soil out there and seed the field and throw straw on it.
we have 4 maintenance workers. So right now, we're doing gym floors and all these things. You've got a whole ag program there, you got people with, you know, who run the tractors there.
Well, I'm just trying to get this, do we want to do it now is my first question, then we'll decide.
That would have to go with your season. I don't know how your seasons run with the soccer. I know when we done the
We're not
road
gonna get-
last year.
I don't mean to interrupt, Greg, but Larry and I are sitting there looking at each other. We're not gonna get grass to grow at this time of the year and seed. And if you seed it now, Larry, in the spring, is it gonna take strong enough root to play and practice on it? In April, I mean, in a month of growing season.
You can plant it in March, it'll start growing then, in all likelihood.
But you're still gonna have
It's
to
gonna
put
be
the
awful
dirt
tender.
now. If you don't put the dirt now, it's gonna clot on you it's gonna be hard and,
You saying if you don't spread the dirt?
yeah, you'd have to spread the dirt now, wouldn't you?
Yes.
You can't leave it all piled
When you're
up.
spreading the dirt, what Ms. Smith's saying is when you spread the dirt, you wanna go on seed it and put your straw and all that.
I don't know if.
If not, it's just gonna
Have you
be-
gone that far, Carol, or you just
Yeah,
spreading the
you
dirt? or
have
you-
to spread the dirt.
Well, I
at
agree, but he's
least
saying
whether you're-
seed it and straw it.
Well,
Are
what's
you-
gonna hurt if you go ahead and seed it?
I think that
and
some
take
of them
what
may think
does
it's
come
not
up?
gonna grow.
It won't grow till spring.
No.
Will it come up in spring? You think
Well,
that?
that's not
You're gonna
necessarily.
have to straw it though, if you spread it, you're gonna have to put straw on it, you'll have too much sheet erosion there. But,
you'll see Calvin next week when football season's in on Friday night. He will, the middle of the football field where it's all tore up, he will seed it, straw it, and it'll sit there, and when spring happens, it'll start growing. It happens every year. He does it every year. The week after football, he gets the seed in the ground, and it's ready come springtime.
Okay.
I think it will, because when we built our barn, we had the Amish to build it, and we had it dozed, and then we spread the seed and put the straw on it, and come spring, it came up. We had to weed it by spring.
All right. Now, I'm assuming that the drainage is done, is that?
Right now, the problem is, I put 13 loads of dirt on it 2 years ago. I didn't do a good job, because I'm not that type of person where I can level it up. So I'm not sure a tractor with a scraper blade is the right option, or somebody with skill maybe could do it. Above my skill level. So, once this dirt goes in those bad spots, and it's leveled, I think we're gonna be okay. The 13 loads I put on made a big difference. And there's less bad spots than there were before I started, and that was 2 years ago. So the 30 ton or whatever you'd got, if it was focused on specifically those holes, or the whole area is worked up and then leveled, however, they leveled dirt properly with the crown on it, like it's supposed to, we'll be fine. Because half our field is great.
Well, I know you can see that from above. You
Yes,
can
you
look down and
can.
see it.
That's why we started on the other end first game.
Okay. All right. What do you all think? I know
If you
Greg-
have someone in mind to do this, get a price from them,
I don't know the skill level that it would take.
we've never done, talked to a dealer, so.
Does anybody have?
But it's just like a
knowledge
football
about
field.
this?
There's no difference between soccer and football field. There's a crown, the water's supposed to go to the side.
That's contractor done all that, I don't know.
Does anybody know somebody with a contract to do it?
I mean, to do it properly, you're gonna have to have someone to survey it, lay it out,
Yeah,
cut it, fill it to grade.
Right.
And I mean, what drainage is there? Natural drainage? We don't have-
No, I've got one drain pipe in at the soccer goal to take the water away. It works good. It takes it all the way across to the swamp.
Where's it located, in the center of the field?
As you walk in the gate by the concession stand, there's a drainage right there, and that takes it all the way to the swamp.
Okay.
Because that was where all the water was coming and staying there. Most of it.
I know when the contractor done the football field, they set up GPS type, and done the crowning, what they call the crowning, which I assume it's the same thing you want to do with soccer. So that has to be done with equipment to set that up. Looking by Iowa, what we're looking at by Iowa, we think it's low, it may be high. You just can't tell, you have to do a transit, and they use lasers to shoot across there at all these different points.
They have stuff on the dozers too that they're going by.
Yeah, that's not equipment that we have knowledge of running.
Okay.
Those vocational schools have no equipment like that.
No.
I mean, to do it properly, that's what you need to do. Find your center your field, your full corners, and then you're going to shoot that and get your crown at the center, and then go to each sideline to have the water drained properly.
Is anybody, you know, when I'm thinking about, the other field we went through, we had specs developed and all, I mean, it was a long process, and then after that, we put it out to bid and everything like that. Is that what we're talking about? If so, I don't know how in the world we're gonna do anything by winter.
We're not. I mean, it took how long to get the specs set up for the other project?
That's what I'm saying. It's
6, 8 months?
I thought we were just spreading dirt and maybe seeding
That's
and
what I
straw
thought,
and
too.
going on about our business, but if it's more complicated, I don't see how in the world we're gonna be able to do it now. I mean, you knowing that, or if you know somebody could help us do that, is Travis Long still kicking?
No, he does the survey and stuff, but I think it's, like Greg said, the right equipment, the right tool does the job. If you don't have the right tool, just the farmer with the tractor dumping dirt and trying to level it, we just may move the holes around.
Well, does anybody know what the right tool is, and who might have that?
It's the same stuff that they use to do the ground on the football field. I mean, we're on the same scope of project, except we don't have to remove, 20 feet of excess dirt above.
And you may just have to recycle the dirt that's there to smooth it out.
When you set the laser up, when you do the laser and you set that up, well, we ran into it at the football field, we had a point over on the backside that was like 3 foot. And looking at it, it was 3 foot high. But towards the front side going over the hill, it was 6 foot low. So those are things that, unless you have equipment that, if the lasers talk to them and then GPS, they line it up, it'll tell you the areas that you need to move dirt to and how you need to slope to the sides that you plan on.
Oh, Greg, did the contractor did the actual grading over, did he have that equipment? Or
Yes, he had that equipment.
You mean,
Why
if
why
it-
don't we get a bid, give a price on it?
Do we have to have specs in order to do that?
You don't have to have specs for that.
No, he's at the survey, I mean,
You just have the grade shot on it.
but we have to
could
have
set up
enough knowledge
for-
to let it, I mean, we
What
as a
would be
board,
it?
or Jeff, or whomever, or
Yeah.
Greg has to be able to put together a bid proposal
Yeah.
that we have to submit. So you gotta have some background information in order to be able to do that, just to get enough information about the scope of the project, get a realistic bid. But, I don't think we can just let a bid that says, we want you to crown our soccer field that's X feet long and X feet wide. Move the dirt necessary. I think we have to have more bid specificity.
Well,
So,
I mean,
but-
it doesn't take a Einstein to shoot grade.
no,
on
it
that.
doesn't. And it's not that hard a project to do if you got the right stuff. But,
I think if we go with, if Mr. Plumlee can be involved with this, he knows the dimensions of the field, I have no idea about
Yeah.
the dimensions of the field, knows things like that, and he could be the go-to, and we're keeping track of what we need to do, the sizes that you need. We can set it up to where you're gonna move, put the dirt accordingly, ground the field accordingly, as to the specifications of West Virginia. I guess that's what you're going by SSAC.
right, it's a football field, that's all it is. Soccer field's a football field.
These
Our-
soccer fields, they vary in size, they don't
And
they?
ours is a minimum.
Okay, the gentleman
There's
told me.
different sizes, I looked, it looks there's a lot of different sizes. College is even different than that, so.
Yes, but our field is the minimum required for a field in the state. That's the same as a football field, same size.
And the next thing this will probably be levy, hopefully the levy, and get some levy funding.
I don't, I'm not sure where we go with this discussion.
I mean, it sounds to me like we're gonna have to have something that we can put a bid proposal
Like you
together
just doing
on,
a
right?
bylaw.
That's why I can't do it.
Talking about changing the size of the field now too.
No, we don't want to do that.
Well, I thought you said it wasn't regular.
I didn't say that.
no. Hey, our soccer field is the minimum regulation size. You can be bigger, but you can't be smaller than what we have.
We're about 5 feet wider than we have to be. From the dirt you moved out 3 or 4 years ago, we added 5 feet on one side. The length is fine, and the width was a little bit more, but it's a good size.
You're allowed to do that.
Yeah. Well, the really, like, Ripley, maybe, theirs will be 20 yards longer, and maybe like 15 yards wider, and Point Pleasant, but those are turf, and those are multi-purpose fields. So, but no, what we got is perfectly fine for what we do.
I always thought you could build your team with home court advantage.
Yes, we do, that's why I'm saying it's perfectly fine field.
Okay. All right.
I mean, realistically, we've got two lots. One, we have somebody pack some dirt in, fill the holes, level up best you can by eyeball. Two, we haven't done right.
Does
That's
number
right.
one include seeding and strong?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're gonna fill in the holes and you just leave mud laying there over the winter, you're gonna have mud come through. They have to seed and straw it.
Option one, just do the best you can on it.
In all honesty, we're only talking about half the field, we're not talking
That's
about
right.
the creek end of the field.
Yeah, but if you're gonna crown
I
it,
agree.
you're gonna do the whole thing from back line to back line through the goals, everything's gonna be done right if we're gonna do it. But you're right, I mean, if we're gonna do this by hand and packing them in 5-gallon buckets and dump it and level it up with a
Just have
rake,
fun.
it's just the concession stand end of the field.
Yeah.
The goal box is horrible. You get a rainstorm with more than 30 minutes, the poor goalie looks like she's been a pig wallowing in mud. After about 15 minutes of play, it's awful.
But entertaining. But
Entertaining, but it's kind of biddable for the goalie.
All right. And then option 2 is what?
Do it right. Get somebody in that can shoot the lines and move the dirt and crown the field so that it drains properly.
In option 2, do you see a time frame different than option 1?
I don't think you're gonna find somebody this fall to do it. I mean, unless you just get somebody whose equipment's idle, ready to jump on it. A lot of that depends on how quickly we could put out a bid. I mean, what are our
It sounded like
requirements?
Greg pretty much stated the bid there himself. He could put that out, what you stated there, the size and the dimensions you already have, and let the people that wants to bid on it, they'll come and look at it and see what they're getting themselves
Get
into.
the pre-bid meeting, but we have to go over everything that we need.
But you're talking about even with something simple like this, a realistic time to let a bid is what, 3 weeks, a month?
Yeah.
And then-
3 weeks you want it to run, then time you get everybody in and all. I think realistically myself, and you're looking at it in March happening, March, April.
If you were to do that now with the whole process of the pre-bid, writing it, advertising it, get the bid bonds, get your bonds, all that stuff, and do the PO, have the board approved, you're looking at the last around Thanksgiving. That's middle to late November. And I don't know if somebody's gonna wanna do that. I like the idea of going ahead and doing that, and doing it early, but I don't see it happening inside of 6 weeks to get that started.
Well, Thanksgiving is not 6 weeks away. Like
Yeah.
4.
Okay, we'll talk about before Christmas.
So Dallas,
That's right.
hearing what you're hearing from us, if we somehow find the money to do this right, if we find someone that will do it right, we're not gonna be able to do this till the spring. You're the girls' head soccer coach, you're the one that's responsible for that facility in terms of it being in usable shape come August for you, or even in June or July, whenever you use your flex weeks of practice. So hearing the options, the best we can do, you wanna wait potentially till spring and have it done right, or do you want us to try to do something now to get the dirt in place, level? I mean, I don't wanna waste money on seed and straw twice, I'm tired, I just tell you.
I think I'd rather do it right.
Wait till
This is a
spring.
long-term event. We'll figure out somewhere to do the youth soccer in the spring. It'll start in April. Those are 300 kids. We gotta figure a place out for them. We'll deal with that then.
Use the new football field for that.
John?
See, I didn't
Just
I didn't
saying.
say it.
It's right
You
there.
heard it out of order before?
Sorry, go on.
I didn't have to get that gavel.
Robert's rules are coming out on you, Sean.
Okay, let's see.
I don't think Duval's using hers over, right?
Yeah.
If everybody thinks that's the proper way to go, then you would be willing to work with Mr. Gosney and whomever else in developing some type of specs or whatever?
I think we can take what you did for football and carry it over. It's the same concept.
All right. And then, okay, that, everybody want to kind of pursue it that way? I don't, it looks, they'd have to decide maybe as you do that, what the time frame on when you might want it to begin. Ideally, you could get a someone could bid on it, we could award the contract to them and, have a begin date or something. You all decide when that would be, March 1st or whatever it is.
If you get into the spring though, it'll probably run into is rain, unpredictable weather. Doing grade work, you need a couple dry weeks. If you get in there and you get rain in the middle of a week, your 1 week project just went to 3 or 4. Your field being ready for use on August 1 just went to August 31.
With the football, I remember it went for 2 years.
Yeah, but don't
That
let
was
you-
the problem with the football, we washed away all the topsoil, and now we're suffering for the lack of topsoil now, with the grass not growing the way we want.
Right.
As you get the rain in there in March, April, May ideally is the time to really, if you want to tear it up, but we're gonna take a chance, rain comes in and washes everything away.
But the ideal time to sow that grass probably is March or so, isn't it?
March, but
Okay.
if you're worried about it being too tender, I don't know what your specifications are on what type of grass you put on there, but you can come, if you're worried about the grass being tender, go to one of these real tough fescues that you can't get rid of garden stuff. So,
We could use a football formula, couldn't we?
we could, but I think most of it was fescue, possible.
But I mean, that was what it was designed for, heavy use, right?
Yeah, right.
There was a percentage, 30, 20, and 10 on that.
When you guys get together, you and you can decide those kind of things, what type of, you don't have to tell everybody who does it anyway, so that could be part of the specs, you can make a decision on what type of grass that you want to use. Okay, you make
Okay.
sense? Okay, Mr. Meekiff, can you come just kind of coordinate that with these gentlemen?
With Greg, and Ray probably need to be involved in it too, in developing the specs, getting it out to bid.
Because we all agree, we've all seen what the field's like, and, it needs to be corrected. At this time of year, that seems like that's the way to do it right. Okay. All right, that'll be our plan then. All right, I think that concludes the presentations for today. So let's go down to the administrative section. I have a motion to look at those. So moved. Mr. Wilkerson. Second. Mr. Curry. Mr. Midkiff.
All right.
Mr. Midkiff is back, resuming his administrative duties. Sorry, Mr. Linville. Go ahead.
Your roll. Item A is school volunteers who on occasion may also serve as bus chaperones for athletic events, academic competitions, or school outings and have completed volunteer orientation. Item B is the approval of the new job description for social worker, which is attached. These are positions we talked about that we fund through the comprehensive schools for, you may have to help me here. Hearts, it'd be Hearts, West Hamlin, Duval. Is it listed? Oh, thanks, Ronnie. Item C, there it is listed. Yeah, I'm still having some cobwebs. Item C is approval to post the social worker positions, and it is Duval, West Hamlin, Ranger, and Hartman.
Good, that was better.
There we go.
More formal.
That's better.
Now, this funding source, once again, is this a grant or what is that?
It's federal dollars
Okay.
through the department
Okay.
that would fund those positions.
All right.
Item D, designation of the following employee to provide specialized health care for the 2018-2019 school year. Item E, Marshall University student Thomas Cooper to perform 15 hours of observation at Guy Valley Middle School in the fall semester. Item F, Eastern Kentucky University student Morgan Cummings to observe Angie Armbruster December the 17th through the 20th, 2018. Item G, a contract with Angela Pritchard to provide training and instruction for the new food service director, effective November 1st, 2018, not to exceed 20 days, according to the terms of the contract. And finally, item H, the following adult students to ride school bus.
Now, Angie's last day is this week, tomorrow.
Tomorrow's the last, let's see, here we go.
You want to have any questions about anything? If not, then is that an all yes vote?
Yes.
All yes. Let's go to the finance section. Have a motion, please.
I move.
Carol? Second. Rounded second, Right.
A, schedule of invoices totaling $835,049.04. If that's attached, if you have any questions, let me know. B, payment of in lieu of transportation for identified students for the 2018-19 school year. And C, financial statements for fiscal year ending 6/30/18.
Okay, now that C, is that the blue document? All right, sir. Anybody have any questions? Ron, is that an all yes vote on those items?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, let's go to personnel. Do we have a motion, please? I'll second. Fred made the motion, Rowdy seconded that one. Bill?
Okay, item A, employment of short, long-term substitute professional personnel. Item B, employment of professional personnel. Item C, transfer of professional personnel. Item E, employment of service personnel. E, transfer of service personnel. F, employment of extracurricular personnel. G, leave of absence. And H, retirement and resignations. Okay, and I gave you a handout where we are now, and also included down at the bottom, the positions we've added this year. And also these vacancies for 19-20 school year. Those are people that have already applied for a job next year and were transferred into those, but they can't move to next year. I mean, it's just like at Midway. We have 2 people today being hired in those positions, but they can't move next year, so we still have subs in those positions.
The same people remain there.
Same people remain there. Well, one of them will be coming later, be on the agenda to, we have a young lady, if you remember a few years ago, I talked about teacher in residence, where somebody can get paid while they do their student teaching, get 35%. But the college gets the other 35%. I thought we got the other 35%. So we're, and we're in the process of hiring one at Midway, a teacher in residence. And, but they understand it's only for this semester because those positions are already filled for next year. So,
Good thing. Okay. I have any questions about those? We still are searching for a few people, is that correct?
still math and science, special ed, same ones we've always been searching for. And we've got PE.
It's hard to believe.
Hard to believe we have PE and health.
That is hard to believe. Okay, thank you, sir. If anybody does, if there aren't any questions, that have all yes on the personnel items? Yes. Okay, all yes there. Okay, we're down to comments, concerns. Board members, anybody have anything this evening, this afternoon? Not that entertaining. Yeah, reluctantly.
Mr. Post-it notes back.
Mr. Mickey, if you have anything.
First, I have a very special announcement to make. Mr. Lingle was recently recognized by the West Virginia Association of School Human Resources Officials. I had to write that down because it's such a...
Sounds impressive.
As the winner of the, well, I shouldn't say winner, what would be the right word on here? Recipient. You're helping me along here. Of the Gregory Bailey West Virginia School Human Resources Official of the Year. So, I mean, he's been recognized, acknowledged as the resource official for the year.
Congratulations, Mr.
I
Lincoln.
think I was the only one nominated.
I don't even know what that is, but it sounds
Well,
impressive.
it is. Greg Bailey was an attorney for Bolton Rice. He passed away, unfortunately. I think it's been about 4 years ago, unexpectedly. And they honor and recognize a personnel director each year.
So it's like a personnel person?
Yes, it is. And,
Of the whole
of
state?
the entire state. And what I didn't know, and I just realized when I was reading down through this, Mr. Whitman, you're in the running for a national recognition or award. So there could be more to follow. But Bill, as you all know, does a wonderful job as our personnel director, and certainly is deserving of the award. What was funny is you didn't even know it. Was that Thursday, my first day back?
First
You get
day
an
back.
email and letting you know that you were going to be recognized that afternoon.
Got an email about 1, Jeff and I went to lunch, said, can you be here at 2:30?
Also,
Except
has
this
this
is
already happened?
It
Oh,
happened
yeah,
last
yeah, it was
week.
like Jeff was
on
on
Thursday.
so I didn't go to the conference.
Then Sean, did you get to go and take your picture?
First I heard about it right now.
So I do have some information.
Thank you, great.
Yeah, but just to clarify, you're not nominated by bold Rice. You're nominated by your peers. Okay, they're the one who's nominated. It's not, because we, Jeff and I last week, we would have had some fun out of that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, congratulations, Bill.
Thank you.
I'm like Jeff, you're certainly deserving.
I also wanted to share with you our final enrollment numbers were submitted last week. It was a little better than what we were anticipating, but still down 74 students from 1 year ago, which brings our total for just the past 3 years. We've lost 245 students. Now, as far as the FTE and how the state funds us, and I do not understand how they calculate their numbers, but although we're losing 74 students, or we've lost 74 students, as far as funding is concerned, we still would be funded for 47 of those students. So, again, I don't know how that works. And I don't want to put Ray's looking at me, but we won't, we're not, it's not like we're losing all that money. We still get some funding, so at least partially.
What's our total number altogether, Mr. Smith?
In terms of our final enrollment numbers. I had it
Oh,
right here.
okay.
No, you're good. We currently have 3,382 students. I was sharing with the staff here the other day, I was looking at some old records. Donna Martin, as a matter of fact, some of her old files. So you're looking at those student years. And when Rowdy and I were in high school at the time, it's hard to believe, back in the early 80s, we had nearly 9,500 students. And that's just amazing.
We had 4,800 in the 90s.
Actually, $5,000-6,000 could
So we've lost a lot of students through the years.
Just statewide, just think how many thousands there are.
Yeah.
There was, what, 800, a little over 800 of us at the time when we was at Guy Valley.
My graduating class at Guy Valley in '87, if I recall, was over almost 80 people. And we graduate how many a year here now? 120, 130? Was it higher than that?
Usually around 180 or so is what we graduated from high school. And my senior class was,
Yeah.
I think there was 120 of us graduated.
Oh, really? I see by '87, it dropped, even then dropped by a third if my numbers are right.
And then finally, a work session, and I know that's been mentioned, two things. One, the work session would also include a discussion about our test results. I'd like to include that because we weren't able to have our meeting this past Friday. So we'd have that discussion for test scores and then discussion, a detailed discussion about the coach's pay proposal, draft one that we had. So I have some dates I wanted to run past the board. Looking at the calendar here and what's going on, and knowing your business schedules as well. Looking at the week of December the 10th. And I've got 3 dates here in particular. I wanted to share. The first.
Is it Monday?
Monday, yeah, so Monday, December the 10th, or Tuesday, December the 11th, or Friday, December the 14th. Would any of those 3 dates work for the board?
Now, what time of day are we talking here?
Early, morning, 9?
We have to finalize these today.
No, not necessarily, we can do it the next meeting.
Okay. 10th, 11th, or 14th?
10th,
I've
11th,
checked it.
or
What
14th.
did you say, Larry? Did you say?
I said, do we have to finalize this?
No, I thought you said one day wasn't good or something.
No.
If I had 2 doctor's appointments at 10,
Okay,
that have canceled, rescheduled.
so then we're looking at the 11th or the 14th.
14th is better for me, but I can make the 11th work.
14th is probably gonna be better for me.
It'd be better for me too, I have appointment 11th, but I can change it, no big deal.
So Friday, the 14th?
Okay.
Anything's fine for me.
It's probably
Yeah,
gonna
that's
be
better
best
for
for me.
me.
All right. So we're saying December the 14th at 9?
So that's Friday, December 14th, at 9.
We can put out a special notice if we near that day. We're having a meeting, special. And what-
And that's all I have.
Okay. All right. There's-
Thank you.
All right, if there's nothing We'll adjourn until Thursday, ladies and gentlemen, November the 8th, 2018, 6 o'clock at Hart's, PKA. Motion, please?
So moved.
I think I heard Fred. Second. And then Rowdy second. All yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.